So I was thinking about getting ready and actually looking cute for this video, but then I remembered that I exclusively edit while looking like a potato. So here we are, the real editing experience, acne out and about, eyebrows nowhere to be found, looking like a fucking gnome. Let's learn how to edit. First step of editing, get yourself some tea. If you're like me, you tend to edit at 2 a.m. because you hate yourself, so get caffeinated, bitches, because we're gonna be here for a while. Second step of editing, take off this sweatshirt because it is like 90 degrees out and I just did it for the bit. Not to worry though, because I have a matching t-shirt underneath, so the aesthetic is preserved. Third step of editing, secure a sponsor for this video because I am a sellout. And also, the sponsor is cool. So thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. More details about them at the end. Okay, first up, before we jump into a more thorough rundown of my workflow, I thought I would answer some of your guys' most asked questions right off the bat. So first up, what editing software do you use? I use Final Cut Pro. A lot of people use Premiere Pro, which is actually a much more professional editing software, but my broke ass cannot be bothered to pay $50 per month to use Adobe software, so I just bought Final Cut Pro once for $300, and she is treating me well so far. Second up, what titles do you use for your videos? In Final Cut, I just insert a basic title, I go to 2D styles, Faux 3D, and then I change the font to Futura. I also really like playing around with the tracking, which is how far away the letters are from each other. It can help you get that kind of like aesthetic, spaced out text look that the kids are into these days. Sometimes though, I also hand draw my titles, and I'll show you. I use my iPad for this, but if you have more nimble fingers than I do, you could probably use your phone as well. I use Paper by 53, which is a free app. Recently for my thumbnails and some of the titles in my last video, I've been using this, I don't know what it is. It's like a sponge roller tool, and it creates this really cool texture that I like that's a little bit less plain than just a solid title. Sometimes in here I also do animations. For those of you who don't know, I was like a total nerd for animation as a kid. My first YouTube channel ever when I was in like 3rd grade was actually called Pipe Cleaner Studios, and it was just these like 30-second stop motion videos of pipe cleaner animals moving around. And I also used to make those little flip books and sticky notes and do a bunch of hand-drawn animations. So that still has a little place in my heart. Basically my super like unprofessional and beta strategy for doing animations is to just hand draw all the pictures out on my iPad and then I import them into Final Cut. So basically I have all these images on my timeline and I just drag them so the duration of the clip is really short, and then when you play it back, it kind of looks like it's moving. Realize I'm like spreading my legs a lot in this video. Okay, you guys also ask me a lot where I get my music. This is a YouTuber struggle. Recently, YouTube has gotten a lot more strict with their music copyright policy, and if your video gets copyright flagged, they either get taken down or more likely they get demonetized. So, like the hipster hoe that I am, I go to SoundCloud. That's pretty much where I get all of my music, and basically I just search for hours for music that A isn't too popular so it's not gonna get copyright flagged, B doesn't sound like trash, and C actually fits with the vibe of the video. There is really like no rhyme or reason to this whole process. Sometimes I'll start by watching some other YouTube videos and see where, if I like the vibe of their music, I'll go to SoundCloud, try to find that artist, and then find other songs that that artist makes. And then from there, I kind of just go down like the SoundCloud rabbit hole and look at the related tracks. Usually they're from like equally indie artists and they have a similar vibe. One thing that I found that I really like to search for is remixes and covers of songs that I like. And in particular, I really like remixes of songs from like the 50s and 60s. I think it just goes really well with the vibe of my video. I am admittedly not the best at changing up the music in my videos. I always will try to do a new song for a lookbook, but for my talking videos, I put the same fucking song in every background. I'll link it below. The main ones that I use are Amsterdam in the Spring, which is this one. June Gloom is what I used to use for my intros, which is this one. Recently I found this one, which is called Pillow Talk, which is a little bit more distracting, but I also really like it, and it sounds like this. How do I know that my music isn't gonna get copyright flagged? I test out every new song that I download just by creating an empty new project in Final Cut, dragging the song in there, exporting it to YouTube as a private or unlisted video, and then once it's uploaded to YouTube, I turn on monetization and see whether it's been flagged. If the monetization button still stays green, then we're all good to go, and I always like doing that before I actually start editing a video because I edit to the music, and then if I upload the final video and I find out that it's been copyright flagged, then I'm just fucked. Next up, let's jump into some actual details of my workflow. So a lot depends on whether the video is a talking video like this, or whether it's a lookbook that's more music based with a voiceover. If it's a talking video, my first step is to sync the audio and the visual. I record on an external mic, which this is gonna sound awful when I pick it up, but bear with me. So this is what it looks like. It has a separate SD card, so I have to import those files separately and then manually sync them. I should put this down because my voice probably sounds really ridiculous from that angle. In order to sync them, I create a compound clip, which is a super useful technique that a lot of people don't talk about. I just discovered it maybe like 6 months ago. You just highlight the clips that you want to combine, go to File, New, Compound Clip, or I set my keyboard shortcut to G, so I just press the G button, and then it'll combine all those clips into their own separate clip. So for example, I can chop up this clip of me talking, and I won't have to cut through the audio and the video and resync them every single time. It just works like it's one clip. After that, I do a rough cut of the video. If it's talking like this, obviously just chopping up the talking and putting them all together in the timeline. If it's a lookbook, I'll just go through all the footage and cut up these little nubbits of modeling where I don't look super awkward. So I'm left with just a timeline full of potential modeling clips that I'd want to use. This part of the process takes fucking forever, but it's also pretty chill because normally I'll turn on some music since the clips don't have sound. Also in that time, to multitask, sometimes I'll go through SoundCloud and start listening to music that I want to be in the background of my lookbook while I'm doing this initial cut of the modeling clips. After I have a rough cut of all of my potential clips, what I like to do is make a backup copy of the entire project. That way I can feel a lot more confident in deleting any of the clips that I don't want, because if I do change my mind and I feel like I wanted this vlogging clip or a segment where I said something and I want it back in the video, but I don't want to have to search through hours of footage to find it again, I can just go to that backup project and drag the pre-selected clip into my video. At this point, I'll do the music, so as I do a finer cut, I have a better feeling of the final vibe and the beats of the video. Also, when I'm doing a talking video, it is so dry without the music, so normally I get really discouraged watching my rough cut and I really hate it. And then I add the music and like it's a little more entertaining and I hate myself a little bit less. If it's a lookbook, obviously the music is really important, and I'll just drag my clips from that rough cut on top of the music and time everything to the beat. If I have a voiceover though, I'll also key down the music and add the voiceover at this point, and then I'll try to sync the modeling clips to match what I'm talking about in my voiceover. Here are a couple of the effects that I use in my lookbooks and my videos in general. The first one is this box or like frame within a frame effect. This is one of my favorite things to do, and I think it really spices up the video a little bit. It's honestly really simple. You just want to layer 2 clips on top of each other. So they're on top of each other here in the timeline, and then take the top clip and scale it down a little bit to whatever size that you want. Normally the front clip is going to be me in an outfit, and then the background is going to be some B-roll that I took of my surrounding location, like a close-up of flowers or the sky or something like that. I try to match the vibe and the colors of the background clip with the foreground clip. Another effect that I use is this TV effect, and that's something that I used to use in all of my intro segments, and it's something I like to use in my lookbooks, especially in close-up shots or things that are less detailed to give it a little bit of a retro vibe or something like that. So I just go into effects, search bad TV, and then you drag that over the clip. You can play with the amount, the type of static. A technique that I use for intro clips or transitions sometimes is the roll, and that basically creates this like double exposure look. It does make the image a little bit harder to see, but I like that for like close-up shots, or if it's just kind of a boring shot, you can use that to change things up. And low-key, these effects also help hide any like failed cinematography moments. I also use this effect sometimes to make this little like TV glitch transition effect. I do this manually by cutting up the clip that I want into multiple little pieces near the beginning or end, wherever I want the transition to be. And for each clip, I give it a different amount of the bad TV effect, and I give it a different roll. So once we're done, it looks like this image has a little jumping around glitch effect. Also, because I am fiending for that vintage aesthetic apparently, something else I do is I have these grain effects. You can search on YouTube for just like a grain overlay, and then you can download that. You drag it over your video, and normally they'll have a black background. So to make it transparent, you're gonna go to compositing, blend mode, and then we're gonna do add. And that'll get rid of all of the black and just leave you with that white grain effect. Next up is color correction. For my outdoor shots and lookbooks, the color tends to turn out pretty well, so I'll just do something super basic. Normally I'll turn up the saturation a little bit, bring the highlights up. Sometimes if I want a little bit more of that vintage aesthetic, I'll also add a little bit of pink in the color correction. And then for indoors, because my camera is a little bitch sometimes indoors, I'm gonna show you guys on my last video, these clips actually came out really, really dark because I was filming for like 4 hours. So by the end of it, like the sun was setting. I started out by adding a basic color board, just turning up the highlights and the saturation a little bit. I wanted the white background to appear really white, but I couldn't turn the exposure up too much without blowing out the details in my skin. So Then I created another color board, and I did something called a color mask. I just dragged the eyedropper over the white tones in the background, so my color correction will only affect those white tones, and then I turned up the exposure a lot more, and that helped me brighten up the background without affecting my skin. And then because I still wasn't satisfied with that, I went back with a fourth color correction. This time I did a shape mask, and then outside the shape mask, I also turned up the brightness so that I got rid of this kind of dark vignette around the sides and brightened up just the outsides of the frame. Lastly, after I'm done with all of that, I'll cut my intro. And doing the intro is honestly my least favorite part of any video. It sucks because at that point I'm just like really over it and I want to get out. But the intro is really important in giving your viewers kind of a preview of what's going to happen in the video so they know they aren't wasting their time. So normally I'll just go through the video and pick out my favorite clips and the most aesthetic looking stuff and copy and paste that to the beginning of the video where I time it to music and then add a title. And then normally I'll add some type of effect over that, whether that's the bad TV effect or grain or something just to distinguish it from the look of the rest of the video. And then there we go, that is the intro, which normally takes me like an hour to do. It's really obnoxious. If it's like a thrift haul, for example, and I'm trying not to give away too much of the video, I time it to that song called June Gloom, and it has this bit where it goes like, I'll like play it here. It's like really fast, so I try to sync it to that sound effect, and I basically do a supercut of all of my clips but make them really, really short, so they kind of just flash by your eyes and you're like, wow, there is so much content in this thrift haul, but I can't quite see what it is. I better keep watching. And that is pretty much it. After that, I'll normally watch through it a couple more times because I always make like dumb errors. I have like typos, or I have a cut that could be a little bit neater, and then I export it to YouTube, and she's ready to go. One big tip that I have before I leave, if you're thinking about getting into editing at all, I would highly, highly recommend customizing your keyboard shortcuts. Basically, there are a ton of different functions in Final Cut. It's a really complex program. All of them you can access through the menu options at the top, or they have keyboard shortcuts. But most of them either involve pressing Command, Control, or Option and another key, and I just find the combinations really hard to memorize. So what I did, I went to the Command section, and then you can click Customize. In this menu, you can pretty much set any function that you want to do in Final Cut and just assign it to a single key, so it's so much easier to access instead of going through all the menus. You just smack one key and you're ready to go. This honestly saves me so much time, like hours and hours while editing, so I would definitely recommend taking a couple minutes to set that up. That is all I have for you guys today. Sorry this was a little bit fast-paced and a little bit more advanced. I'm kind of assuming that you guys have a basic knowledge of editing, but if you guys are new to this and you want much more professional and much more cohesive tutorials on how to edit, I would definitely recommend checking out Skillshare. It's an online learning service where they have tutorials like this, but like way better, about anything that you want to learn, from like languages to photography to editing. They have a really great 2-hour long walkthrough of all the basics of Final Cut. The tutorials are also broken down into chapters, which is so awesome, so you can just skip to whatever skill that you want to learn, or you can watch the whole thing through if you want a really cohesive introduction to editing. And they also have some great tutorials on Premiere Pro, which I should probably watch because Premiere Pro still confuses the heck out of me. If you guys are interested, I do have a link in the description. The first 500 of you to click it get a 2-month free trial of Skillshare. After that, Skillshare is $10 a month, but that's still so much more affordable than film school, for example. I'm paying like $40K a year to learn probably the same thing. But yeah, seriously, give Skillshare a try if you are interested in learning more about editing. They give you unlimited access to all these classes from actual professionals in the field, which is really awesome and can be a great way to learn something new. Other than that, thank you so much for watching this video. As always, let me know if you guys want me to do more specific tutorials. I know like this is a fashion channel and not an editing channel, so I'm not sure if that would be super relevant to you guys, but let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next week looking like less of a actual lump. See you guys next week. Bye.